Hi everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates, and I'm here with part 3, the final chapter in my slow stitched thrifted denim vessel. And I just want to say, in this part I'm doing some machine stitching, but I need to explain that the outer part with all the vintage denim was hand stitched, so it was slow stitched on the outside. Inside, it just seemed more practical to do it with a sewing machine, so I did that. But I think it turned out really nicely, and it has a few surprises. So check out how I made it. I'm going to switch over to some machine sewing now for the lining part. So out of the scrap fabric that I had, I cut several pieces, and I'm going to just stitch them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm starting off with, I'll give the dimensions below in the description, and if you want to see a drawing of the sizes, I'll have that on my website at LyndaCreates.com. So let me go ahead and stitch these together. Yeah. This should be 24 inches wide. So folded in half, it should be 12.5. I need to sew these two ends to make it into a tube. I've created the tube, and now I need to turn it right side out. Let's see. So this long strip at the top, or this long strip is the top, I know that. So now what I have to do, I have another piece of fabric that's cut 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and this is going on the bottom. Keeping my hand on the bottom part, right sides together. So the nice thing about this is that the fabric sides are designed to match up on these corners with the bottom. And the only place you won't have it match up is the side. There's one side that is really long. So when you line up these two seams, you will have the corner. You're easing yourself into that corner basically. And you will come out to where it should come to a point, because you want this point to meet in the corner of your bag. One thing you want to do is at this point, you want to leave about a 3-inch opening make sure you do this at this point, because otherwise you won't be able to turn it when you attach everything together. So what I do is I always leave vertical pins. Everything else is horizontal pins, but I leave vertical pins so that I remember to stop when I get to the other side. And again, this will be a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, when you get to that point, put your needle down and turn it. And underneath you want to push all the fabric around the corner. And this is where it comes in handy that you left your pin in there in a different way, so you remember not to keep sewing. Okay. So there we have the lining inside out. When you turn it, you find out where your opening is. Now at this point, well, you also want to make the corners nice and neat, but at this point, if you want to add anything extra to this, to the lining part, this is the time to do it. My bag is going to be reversible, so if I want this to be the outside of the bag, I could turn it and have this as the outside. So I might want to add something to this. I was going to say adding a little bit of the vintage embroidery, but it's also going to be the inside of the bag, so I don't want it to get rubbed too much. What do I have here? I could do a little bit of a different fabric, or the thinner denim, I have little scraps of it. I could add it someplace. I know what I'm going to do. I'll be right back. I decided to do my little logo face as a little patch for this. So I had some blue fabric, and the face part comes from a die that I designed called Making Faces. It was for iCrafter, and it just creates all these different faces, different hairstyles and glasses and facial hair for men. So this is the face that I designed that looked similar to me. You could watch the chenille bag tutorial. I showed how I die cut these out and made these little faces. So I've decided to start using it sort of as my logo. I'm going to sew it on. I don't know if I'm going to machine sew it or hand sew it. The other thing I need to sew is I have 2 strips of dark blue polka dot fabric. These came in a scrap bag, and that's all I have, and I need it to be a little bit longer, so I have a little bit of this fabric, so I'm going to sew it onto the edge just so I can make it a little bit longer. I'm going to use this for some binding, and I don't need much. So now what I have to do is I'll cut the bottom edge off so it'll be straight, and I'll determine what exactly I need. Let me go ahead and finish these pieces so that I can sew the top edge with the sewing machine. Okay, so I have my logo patch on the corner of this is the lining, bag lining, so it won't be seen from the outside. And it had Wonder Under on it, so it's heat set onto this fabric. Now, the other thing I did was, this is 1 1/4 inch scrap fabric that I'm going to use as the edge. So this is the main part of the bag, and I had designed it with some of the denim overlapping so that when there's an insert it would overlap into the insert fabric. But I've since decided that I'm going to use this as the edging, and if I'm going to do that, I can't have the denim overlapping. Well, I could, but I don't want to. I need to trim off the extra denim. I know, it's shocking, but sometimes you pivot. I'm going to start on a smaller area. So all I'm going to do is cut off the excess fabric. You know, sometimes you work on a design and you change your mind. Well, that's basically what I'm doing. Now what I need to do is add this binding. I need a piece of cord. Let me see what I have. Let me go digging. Dug through my stash, found some of this silky cording. Not sure what it's supposed to be used for, but it's going to be perfect for what I need. I have this, it was 1 1/4 inch wide. I did a little finger press to make it in half, find the halfway point. So now I'm putting the cording down the center seam and pinning it. You should pin it fairly close to the cording to hold it in place. Let's run it through the sewing machine. I'm going to try to sew as tight as possible to hold the cording against that edge to make that little lip, or to make the little blue cording. So there I have the edging that I'm going to put on the top of the bag. I think we could start pinning the whole thing together. So because the only variation, everything else is going to be this blue, the only variation is this little strip of the lighter blue. That's going to be the first piece I want to attach down someplace, because that's the one that's going to make a difference when we wrap it. What I'm saying is I don't want it to sit exactly like that where it looks too perfect, and I don't want it to be in an area that's like here already has this fabric. I don't want to put it right next to that. So I'm kind of looking at this opposite side, so it can actually go staggered a little bit. So it's overlapping the yellow a little bit, not too much. I'm pinning it to the right side of the bag, to the edge right near where the cord is. Okay, look, we are pretty darn close. Okay, so where they overlap, let me do a little cleanup here. So now what I want to do is I'm going to sew this edge down to the fabric. I'm going to hand baste it just to make sure it's done smoothly. I just want to show this is where the overlap from the start to the end, and I'm just leaving it overlapping. We're going to take the inside lining right side out. And we're going to put it inside the bag that is right side in. So you also want to align some corners. If you have, okay, I'm kind of checking because some sides have yellow in here, and there's two sides that don't really have a lot of yellow. So I'm kind of trying to put the yellow side in that corner where there isn't any yellow. It's not critical, but will make it look nicer. Okay, and I'm just kind of tucking the corners from the inside. So now we're going to sew this top, but we have to make sure the corners are aligned on the inside as well. I'm just trying to align everything, opening up this seam. I'm going to pin it, trying to catch the top of the where the cable or where the cording is. The main thing you're trying to do is get everything to line up and then to sew it as close to that edge of that cording as you can. So if you recall, we overlapped because we had a little extra here. We overlapped these pieces. So when they come together, they will look nice and neat together. Okay, and that's the part you kind of want to really sew kind of carefully. So I'm going to put a vertical pin here. So it marks it. Now we can go ahead and sew this. You'll realize that it's all turned in on itself, and to get it back out we need to find the seam that we didn't sew. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I did it along the bottom. You could do it anywhere. So the trick is now when you have this little opening is to bring everything in through it. Okay, so this little part that we didn't sew, so we're going to turn it right side out through this hole. I did it a 3-inch, left it roughly a 3-inch opening. You could leave it a little bit more because I realized the denim's a little bit thicker. So now we have it turned right side out. The only thing we have left is to close this opening. So when you're doing this with denim, I would say at least a 4-inch opening. So I'm just going to do very close to the edge. Okay. So now we should have, let me move the sewing machine aside for the big reveal. So this goes down inside. Okay, one more thing I thought I would do is do a little top stitch right along this edge. It just makes it a lot cleaner, and I'm going to do it close to that edge. It is officially done. Well, let me change camera angles so you could see this. So here is the finished bag. And the reason that I did the insert is that I want to use it like a rolled edge on the top. So I have this other fabric showing, and I have this little edge along to define that edge. On the inside, I have my logo. This is the rolled edge bag with the distressed upcycled denim, a couple of, or 3 yo-yo Suffolk puffs, and lots of scraps of denim, thrifted fabric. I know I'm going to be finding threads coming off of it for quite a while, but I also, this whole time I had it planned that I want this rolled edge to give it support, so I didn't add any interfacing on the inside. I wanted the bag itself to fold over and support itself. There's my thrifted embroidery bit. It was 11 inches tall, and I roughly planned a 3-inch wrap border here. So it should be about 8 inches high. Let's take a look. Oh, 8 inches, exactly. So that's good. So that is the Thrifted Distressed Denim Rolled Vessel. So it has a lot of thrifted denim that has beautiful shreds on it. It even has a little pocket. The fabric is all thrifted. The embroidery's thrifted. The fabric on the inside is all thrifted. It's slow stitched, lots of slow stitching in there. It has some machine sewing, very simple machine sewing around it. A little bit of cross stitch, real little, but it's there. It is a 6-inch by 6-inch square base on the bottom, 8 inches high with the edge folded down. If you do it straight up, if you want more storage like that, it is roughly 11 inches long or high. Plenty of space. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already, and hit the notification bell so you're informed when I do new videos. And I just want to thank everyone and hope everyone has a fun, crafty week until I see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.